You don't lose money because you're bad with money. You lose money because you're bad at one conversation. The one where numbers get uncomfortable, silence stretches, and someone decides what you're worth. That conversation happens every day. Most people never realize it's the same conversation, just wearing different costumes. Salary talks, freelance rates, rent increases, business contracts, even the price of a cup of coffee. And most people lose it quietly. Not because they're lazy, not because they lack talent, but because they never learned one skill that sits underneath almost every financial outcome in their life. This matters right now because the economy didn't break. It just stopped being polite. For decades, you could drift. Inflation was low. Jobs were stable. Mistakes were padded by time. That era is gone. Prices move faster than paychecks. Companies renegotiate constantly. Algorithms adjust in real time. And if you don't understand how value gets decided, it will be decided without you. So let's talk about how the system actually works. Not the motivational version, not the hustle post version, the quiet, mechanical version. Every financial interaction has three invisible parts: value, leverage, and a decision maker. Under constraints, value is not effort. It's not hours. It's not how tired you are. Value is what problem disappears when you show up. A plumber doesn't get paid for turning a wrench. They get paid because water stops flooding the kitchen. A software engineer isn't paid for typing. They're paid because something that used to break doesn't. This sounds obvious until you notice how often people price themselves based on effort. Anyway, I worked really hard. I spent weeks on this. I need this job. None of those are value statements. They're emotional disclosures. And markets don't pay for emotions. They respond to leverage. Leverage is the part most people avoid thinking about because it feels unfair. Leverage is about alternatives. Who needs two more? How many options does each side have? What happens if this deal doesn't happen? When leverage is on your side, negotiations feel calm. When it isn't, they feel like panic disguised as politeness. Here's the uncomfortable math. If you earn a fixed salary, a 2% difference in starting pay compounds over decades into hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not because of raises. Because raises are percentages of a base number someone else chose for you. That base number is usually set in one conversation. A conversation most people rush through because it's awkward. Now zoom out. The same math applies to rent, to interest rates, to supplier contracts, to business pricing. Tiny differences. Locked in early, quietly decide who absorbs inflation and who passes it on. And here's the irony. The popular story says money is about intelligence or discipline or education. But in practice, money flows toward people who can explain value clearly and wait through silence without flinching. That's the skill. Not confidence. Not charisma. Not aggression. Clarity under tension. Watch how professionals do it. They don't argue. They fray. They don't say, I need more. They say, here's what changes if I'm not involved. They don't fill silence. They let the other side do the math out loud. And they understand incentives. A company doesn't pay you because you deserve it. They pay because replacing you costs more. A client doesn't accept your rate because it's fair. They accept because delay is more expensive. A landlord doesn't hold rent steady out of kindness. They do it when vacancy is riskier than stability. This is not cynical. It's mechanical. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. They hype size. Just work harder. The reality says, position yourself better. They hype size. Follow your passion. The reality says, understand who pays for what and why. The hype says money is about mindset. The reality says it's about leverage, timing, and incentives interacting in quiet rooms. There are risks to this skill. Used poorly, it turns people into caricatures. Everything becomes transactional. Every conversation feels like a battlefield. That's not the point. The point is awareness. When you don't understand how value is negotiated, you default to whatever system already exists. And that system is optimized for people who do. Long term, the divide isn't between rich and poor. It's between people who can articulate their economic value and people who hope someone else notices it. One group renegotiates as the world changes.
The other absorbs the change and calls it bad luck.
And here's the final uncomfortable thought. If one skill quietly shapes your income, your stress, your options, and your freedom, why is it almost never taught directly? Maybe because a system based on silent assumptions works better when fewer people question the numbers. So the next time a price is set, a rate is offered. A raise is discussed. Ask yourself one question before you speak. Who actually has the leverage here? And what would happen if I let the silence last just a little longer?